ISIS is obviously a huge concern among the American people, and I guess there's a confusion, I think, about what specifically would Donald Trump do differently in terms of specifics. He says he would bomb the hell out of ISIS. He says that we need to have better intelligence along those lines. But he's also said that he would not have very many troops. There are about 4,000 troops in Iraq, and U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria right now. In terms of the threat there, and in terms of the threat here, what are the specifics as to what he would do differently?
I do think he'll wind up having to commit more troops there, and I think, but that's something I think that he'll have to come to the conclusion on as he continues to get more regular briefings that he will do now as the nominee. He'll be in now access to intelligence that he simply doesn't have now. And my experience with Donald has been, when you sit and you talk with him dispassionately about facts, he listens, he absorbs it, and then it alters his view of particular topics. I think that's what we want in political leaders, folks who are willing to listen and are not wed to having to do one thing in one particular way, because I said it 6 months ago on State of the Union. You know, you got to be able to go, okay, well, I now have new facts and that make me have to change my position.
We also discussed the fact that Senator Ted Cruz has yet to endorse Donald Trump, even though he is speaking this evening. And Governor Christie made a very strong argument that Cruz needs to endorse Donald Trump tonight in his speech.
If you want to sign the pledge, adhere to the pledge. And I just think you're supposed to keep your word. And I think that's part of the problem and part of the continued friction. So I hope Ted Cruz gets up tonight when he speaks at the convention and keeps his word and endorses Donald Trump. He should. And especially the way he was kissing Donald's rear end for the first 6 months of the campaign. I mean, all of us were kind of, I mean, seriously, right? Okay, they're doing rallies together on Capitol Hill, and I mean, seriously, they don't understand that Donald's not a politician. He thought Ted really meant it. He thought Ted was being honest when he said all these nice things about Donald. And then all of a sudden he starts attacking Donald. And I remember Donald called me, he's like, I thought this guy liked me. I said, he never liked you. Are you kidding? He never liked you. He's faking it. So I hope that Ted ends that tonight and keeps his word and endorses Trump tonight. And if he doesn't, then he's less of a person than he presents himself to be to the American people.